Hello, today is May 27th, 2012. It's a Sunday. I just made a video a few minutes ago with my Canon G12 camera. That video was about my new computer desk. I just love it. I bought a used computer desk from a guy that's moving. And I've got room now on my desk. I can put all kinds of stuff. I put my food over here and watch TV and eat. I can lay stuff out here. I can set the printer up on here, all kinds of stuff if I want to. So I made a video about that. I made it with this camera and then Magic, what is it? Magic Movie Editor Pro 17 Plus. I used that to splice two pieces together. I don't know how to use that program yet, so when it got uploaded, it's not even a 720p when it uploaded, when I used the Magic program to upload it, so it's not even a 720p. I'm recording this with the Logitech C920 camera, which I did a review on, and after I made that review, I think just about every video that I have made with this camera, the video has been pixelated in places, and I never had that problem with the C910. I gave the C910 to my grandson, so I may just ask him for the old one back and give him this new camera. He's got a desktop computer with all kinds of power, and I think that would work just fine. I'm using a laptop computer here as my desktop. Wanted to mention that. I think the Magic Editor program, I just don't know the settings for it. But I did a video that I'm using the Windows 8. What do they call it? Consumer preview. I'm going to hit the control key now, or not the control key, but the Windows key. And this is the screen you get. Now this they consider their start menu. And that, Windows 8. My problem now. There's a workaround, from a third party, but this is the start program. So there's no, with Windows, how you go down here and you click in the corner and your programs pop up there. There isn't. It's this, and it sucks. Like I said, there's a workaround program that you can use, but I mean, you shouldn't have to. Now I realize they want you to use this, and but for us that use kind of Windows in the regular way, this really sucks. What else did I want to mention? I did a review on the Microsoft mouse, and I don't know what's going on. Now when I'm using the scroll key, it's acting kind of funny. I haven't had the mouse all that long, so I'm thinking about going back to this little wimpy Logitech M305. which is really nice. This, because, oops, there's a lock on it here. You open it up, it takes one AA battery, but there's a little slot in here for this, and this plugs into your USB. And this is an excellent mouse for people who have a laptop computer, which I have. I cannot use a laptop computer, you know, the, what do you call it, touchpad or whatever. I mean, I just can't use it, and I hate the keyboard on a laptop computer. Now, I never go anywhere, and I'm sure if I went someplace, when I was in Miami, I didn't have a laptop computer then. I had to do jury duty, and they let you, they had Wi-Fi there, so, I mean, that would have been great. But I want to get a desktop. I want to get a desktop computer. What else did I want to mention? I think that's it. So let me bring this to a close. Well, let me say something else. Right now, I've got a family member, a close family member, who, well, let me say, my ex-wife's side of her family, they've got mental problems in that family. Back when I've got 4 kids, back when my 2 oldest girls were very young, they asked me, this was after we were divorced, they asked me, Daddy, are we going to have the problems that Mom has? And I said, no. That was caused by her parents and her upbringing and her environment. And, you won't have any, so. Then later, when one of my sons turned 21, he just got his degree, just graduated with a degree in electronics and computers, and he landed the job that he wanted at the company that he wanted, Garmin Company, makes the GPS units. He was so happy. He was living with me and 20 years old or 21 years old, and never had any problems with him. I was working midnight shift and he was working the day shift, so didn't see too much of him. Now all of a sudden he started talking bizarre, and I called to make an appointment with the mental health people the next day, and then the next time I saw him, shortly later, I knew it couldn't wait, and I loaded him in a car and drove him to an emergency room. And he was just about catatonic by the time I got him there. Got to the hospital, and it was shift change time. People, and the entrance, you come in with the patients. All the employees were coming down the hallway, going to their, they'd hit the time clock, and they were going to their various units, and I'm wheeling him in a wheelchair, and they look at him and can see him, and they made a path. And right away, of course, the ER doctor came over and immediately said, does schizophrenia run in your family? And he's, schizophrenic, and called for security to stand by. With my son, after that, he was hospitalized several times because he wouldn't take his medication. And he's been taking his medication, and he started taking his medication, and it's been, I don't know, 10 years or more he's been taking his medicine, and he hasn't been in the hospital. Right now apparently he's not taking his medicine, and he's acting very bizarre, and I don't know what's going to happen. So what I wanted to mention was what a tremendous toll that schizophrenia takes on the patient, uh, takes on the family, what a terrible expense it is for our society when we don't have people working at, he hasn't been able to work at, he can't concentrate on computer and electronics or whatever. So he worked for 5 or 10 years at Taco Bell. Had a really nice manager at that Taco Bell. I forget exactly how long he worked there, but she was a manager, and that was when he was sometimes not compliant on his medication, and she was just wonderful. And because he was a hard worker, but then the few times he went to the hospital, she waited till he came out, and he went right back to work. She kind of kept an eye on him. There isn't the funding and support that there should be for people who have, not just schizophrenia, but depression and bipolar and all these other things. We really should do more in this country. And the other problem is, and a lot of you will not agree with me, unfortunately, on this, when somebody is schizophrenic or bipolar or whatever the disorder is, when something happens where the police and the legal system gets involved, our justice system, the police, the prosecutors, the people have no understanding. My son isn't a Jeffrey Dahmer. He's not going around eating people. But Jeffrey Dahmer is an example. There's somebody totally raving, insane, eating people. And, he's found guilty and put into prison. Our system, it just doesn't, the American people think that if you use an insanity plea, that it's going to win, and they hate it. And the truth is, somebody using an insanity plea almost never works. And our legal system is, it's screwed up when it comes to mental health issues. And we need to change it somehow. But I know people don't want somebody who's dangerous. They want them, to make sure they're not dangerous, and they don't want them out there running around. My son, by the way, has never been dangerous, never has ever been violent. Quite the contrary. He'd give you the shirt off his back, but our system needs to be enlightened and changed and improved. And I don't see it happening with the philosophy and the people out there, but it does need to be changed. Also, I remember, I'm 71 years old, and it's not all that long ago. I remember watching on television the McNeil Lear, I think it was, instead of the news hour on PBS, and the debates and the discussions about it and the questions are going on. It used to be in the United States that, actually I remember a thing from a book or a magazine that I read where they talked about some cases where a man's wife complained that he wanted sex 3 times a week, or maybe it was 4 times a week, and they locked him in a mental hospital for the rest of his life for being insane. They were locking up, and they locked up in bad facilities too, of course. People who were missed, somebody who was, I know you're not supposed to say retarded, I think that's stupid, people who were retarded or had other things that were not mental illnesses, little kids ended up locked up for the rest of their lives in mental institutions. And they were locking up people who should not be locked up, and people who could function, perfectly well at home and in society and be productive members of society. So I remember watching on television, and they said, well, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to clear out these mental hospitals and shut down, just shut them down, close down most all of them, except for the really hardcore cases that have to be there. And we're going to, have halfway houses. We're going to have clinics, and we're going to do all this on the outside and in the community. And so then they changed the rules about, getting into a psych hospital, and they closed them down. And all they did was dump all these people out on the streets. And that's a good part of the homeless people that you see, those sorts of people. Not all these people are, you get new ones, but there's very few facilities for them. And they're not getting any help, and they didn't do any of the things they said they would do. They said, we're going to close down all these, standing big psychiatric hospitals, and there's going to be halfway houses, there's going to be clinics, and all type, and we're going to help them on that level, and it'll save money. The people can be with their families. The community will be involved. These people actually, many of them will actually become productive members of society. They'll be able to, instead of being at a hospital, locked up, many of them will be able to hold down, some jobs, make some money, and pay some taxes. And the government completely just, and so I guess my plea now is we need to, the legal system, somebody can do something totally insane, totally crazy, and they're going to be found guilty. Even if they got voices telling them what to do, and they're usually going to be found. I know you hear of cases where somebody, did something really bad, and maybe they are sent to a psych hospital, but those are rare cases, extremely rare cases. Usually these people who are just total wackos are found guilty and go to, a prison along with, I'm tempted to say they go to prison with murderers and rapists and whatever, but the truth is, those people, they are there, but they're going to prison locked up with people for smoking marijuana and whatever. Our system here in the United States, we're imprisoning too many people, and we've got this, back before the economy crashed or whatever, and back when everything was looking hunky-dory and just wonderful, I was saying back then that the capitalistic system, it was screwed up and fucked up, but that they didn't know I said, we need a new word. I said, we need a new word because the Republicans made the word capitalism holy, because it was capitalism versus communism. So if you were not for capitalism, then you were a communist. It should have been, freedom versus communism, but they made it capitalism versus communism. And the Republicans were successful in making not only, communism, just the worst thing in the world. They made socialism the worst thing in the world here in the United States. And not only that, just, fairly recently, they made the word liberal. You're not going to see you're not going to see very many Democrats saying, yeah, I'm a liberal. Now I'm a progressive, because the Republicans were successful in, they acquainted liberal with communist. And so, anyway, I made this much longer than I intended to be. Oh, if you're religious, please say a few prayers for my son, that we can get him back taking his medication, and that he doesn't end up in the psychiatric hospital. He hasn't been in a psychiatric hospital in years and years. They're terrible places. He wouldn't be in there he'd just be in there till they got him back on his medication. But my the last, he was several times in Kansas City, Missouri, in the psychiatric hospital there. My son and I were in Orlando, Florida, and he took his medication, but he didn't have to end up in a, and we're in Texas now, and he hasn't been in the psychiatric hospital here. And I don't like to see him have to go into the psychiatric hospital because those places are terrible, and I worry about him when he's in the psychiatric hospital, and I go to visit him. I'm worried about the other patients that are there. They're going to, they're. So anyway, if you're religious, say a few prayers that we get things worked out. If you happen to be a billionaire or whatever, and a millionaire, instead of putting your money into a super PAC to control an election or whatever, how about putting some money into mental health research? Thank you very much.